family. I want to give you the big reason you need to exercise the body. Now, the biggest reason to me, even though you're working the body, is it builds the mind. Now, I bear witness to this personally because I'm just not on my game if I don't feel strong physically and constitutionally, meaning my immune system and things of that nature. Now, I've been eating clean and staying in tune with my body for so long that I notice almost immediately changes in my energy, my physical, and most recently, I now notice changes in my mental stamina. And I'm not talking like a slight feeling. I can sense like the very moment my mind and body start to change in levels. Now, one of the things people may have heard me mention is how effective exercise is. And I want to show you the actual science behind why. Regular semi-rigorous to rigorous exercise helps the brain tremendously and is preventative when it comes to cognitive decline. And it's even been shown to help depression. There are multiple studies that show this as a matter of fact. I stand behind building the body fiercely, and to me building the brain and the mind is just as important as building the body. So when I researched this information, it basically confirmed what I already knew. Now, the studies and medications for Alzheimer's are directly related to cognitive decline. I found it strange that cognitive decline and Alzheimer's are sort of presented on the surface as two different diseases. But when you do a cross comparison of the most prominent symptoms, they're basically the same. I think Alzheimer's is just verifiable because a certain threshold is reached where cognitive impairment is really significant. So even though some of these studies are under the Alzheimer's banner, they're the same for cognitive decline. And we're talking about exercise that fights cognitive decline, verifiable by study. Now, there are many studies on exercise and brain health, but as always, I want to see the components involved. I want to see specifics, specific connections. So here we have how BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor, is increased as a result of exercise. Exercise induces beneficial responses in the brain, which is accompanied by an increase in BDNF, a tropic factor associated with cognitive improvement and the alleviation of depression and anxiety. Here we report that an endogenous molecule released after exercise is capable of inducing key promoters of the mus musculus BDNF gene, the metabolite B-hydroxybutyrate, which increases after prolonged exercise, induces the activities of BDNF promoters, particularly promoter 1 or promoter I, which is activity dependent. We have discovered that the action of B-hydroxybutyrate is specifically upon HDAC2 and HDAC3, which act upon selective BDNF promoters. Now that's geek stuff, but they're basically saying that after you exercise for a prolonged period, and that doesn't include walks. A lot of people like to include walks with that. I've said a long time ago, walks do nothing for the body. But after prolonged exercise, there are metabolites that are created by the body that stimulate these neurotropic factors. And these neurotropic factors start to work on the brain, to put it really simple. So there's your direct connection to the chemistry involved in the brain being improved by exercise. And that was probably more for me than you. But another obvious empirical study and observation is what's called a runner's high, which is not limited to running. This is something that happens in the body in addition to BDNF release, where the body produces its own opioids, cannabinoids, and endorphins to feed the brain and to stimulate it for various reasons. These chemicals behave the same way artificial drugs that are used to feel pleasure or relieve stress do. So you can think of your body producing its own cannabis, cocaine, and brain cell growth formula, which is a pretty powerful concept. This is why you can stave off depression with staying rigorously active. And a word to the wise, We all go through these low periods where life is kind of giving us the middle finger. I can't tell you how just being able to focus on my workouts kept my hormone levels balanced to prevent depression, keep my endorphins flowing, which also sort of fortresses the mind against depression. Now, you might have the question in your mind, why didn't my doctor or why don't doctors recommend exercise at checkups if these things work so well? Well, if everyone knew how to use their body to self-heal and medicate indigenously, then how much business would doctors get? But here, I'm going to let another doctor explain that to you.
So here's a question from Jessica. She asks, if exercise helps clinical depression, why don't doctors prescribe it?
So I think there are a lot of reasons why doctors don't prescribe it. Now, there are some doctors who do prescribe it and do a very good job of it. But there are a lot of barriers for other providers. I think first of all is often in their trainings, they're not trained in how to prescribe exercise, so there's probably a knowledge gap there where they're not comfortable with the prescription of exercise. There are barriers in terms of what is an effective exercise prescription that I think a lot of us have probably been in our doctor's office and we have that 30-second conversation about, you should really go out and exercise more. But while that's a nice conversation to have and it's better than not having that conversation, it's probably not enough to really have a big impact on the patient's behavior.
Listen, fam, exercise is very efficient if you keep up with it. Now, most athletes have very little, if any, issues with depression. And the ones that do, I'll bet money, they're on some type of pharmaceutical that is a key component in the problem. Just do a survey of the athletes that deal with a lot of depression. And if you're familiar with performance-enhancing drugs, or the sport itself, or something about the physique of the athlete will give you some insight into possible contributing factors. Now, the task of staying consistent by drafting schedules, arranging life duties to fit in workout times, and especially adjusting your intake, that is what they call your diet, are all processes that keep the mind occupied on the body, which works both, if that makes sense. And when it all starts to come together and you see your body change, that will bring you to the top of the mountain where you'll then enjoy trying to feed the will to stay there, which is another joyful task. Alright, so peace till next video. If you learned from this video, help support the study and time to bring this knowledge to our community. It does take time and effort to be concise and as accurate as possible so that we can stay abreast of important health information and techniques. Please visit the site and follow these links.